Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We are going to take you through the Welcome to Paragon class. We're going to show you some great time-saving tips and techniques that you're going to want to know as you go through your conversion from Realty Server into Paragon. So just a little bit of housekeeping. In your GoToWebinar panel, you're going to have a questions box. If you have any questions throughout the presentation today, feel free to fire them off in that questions box. Don't wait till the end. Go ahead and jump in, because if we see your question and we're on that particular screen, it's a little easier just to go ahead and answer your question right then and there. So feel free to type in any questions you have along the way. My name is Colleen DeLange, but I want to introduce Brian, our Chief Technical Officer and our Chief Information Officer. He's actually going to take you through all the really important stuff that you need to know today. He's going to give you all of the dates that you need to jot down. Also, in your GoToWebinar panel, you have a handout that's going to have all the important dates, step-by-step instructions. So keep in mind, right where it says handouts in your GoToWebinar panel, you'll be able to save and print those directions so you have them for future. But Brian's actually going to take you through everything you need to know as far as the dates, the things you need to do beforehand to get ready and be fully prepared. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Brian.
All right. Thank you, Colleen. As Colleen mentioned, I am Brian Alford, CIO from REALTORS, and pretty much I am the project manager on this entire conversion. So what I'm going to go through, there we go, is just quick overview what this new relationship means when you come on board with our MLS system, what that entails as far as, or what sort of products and what you're going to be getting in this new MLS system, what to expect with this conversion, important dates, and your homework and how to prepare over the course of the month. And we'll go into a little bit of education and training. So MLS conversion, at its best, it's a very disruptive process. This is not something that's done too often for good reason, but we try to minimize, the road bumps, any of the pitfalls. In a nutshell, you're going to be converting from Realty Server, your current MLS system, to Paragon. And we like to boast that Paragon has been the #1 system in the nation for several years in a row. One of the things that we love so much about Paragon is that it integrates with more products than any other MLS system. And one thing we're going to go into, and I'm going to go into, is running parallel between Realty Server and Paragon, which is what we're currently doing today. So, so what that means is you do everything business as usual and Realty Server today, but you have access to Paragon, and I'll go into that in a little more detail, the important dates. The vendoring experience. Now, we've been doing this for over 12 years. We've brought on 5 or 6 associations over those years, and one of the reasons is the board level autonomy. In other words, you're still your MLS. You still have your own branding, fields, communication with your membership, and rules in place in this MLS system. Plus, you get support from REALTORS, and we provide support 7 days a week, 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Now, these are the products that you're actually going to have access to initially. Paragon, obviously, that's the product that you're the MLS application that you're going to be bringing on board, and showing time. So what showing time allows is the scheduling between the property scheduler. Sorry about that. So these two are pretty much married. And I'm going to go into detail on how those are actually going to be switched over from your current system and what state into what they're both going to be. So showing time will remain where it's going to be until sorry, I had to let the dog in. Okay. In addition to Paragon and showing time, Realist, that is the tax and assessor's records. There's deep linking to those, as well as any property lookup for the entire state of Michigan. Plus, even though we don't provide zip form, we do provide a product called, or we provide the integration for MLS Connector, and that allows you to actually auto-populate any of the forms and documents from the MLS records and Paragon into zip form. So deep linking for RPR, we provide that too. Not sure if you had that product before.
The dog is drinking right now, isn't it, Brian?
I know, I apologize. I did not put the bowl out. She ran after a squirrel.
Brian has a puppy.
Come in, so it was like, okay, fine. Okay, and finally, tax autofill. Now, this allows you within Paragon to start a listing from the tax and assessor's records from Realist. So you're able to look up any property in the state of Michigan and start a listing with that. And it takes that information, such as the location, the address, the legal description, and so on, and starts a listing within Paragon. Data sharing today within Realty Server looks like this. However, this week we were able to introduce not only the remainder of the regional, which includes Bay County Realtors, East Central, which is out of Flint, Greater Shiawassee, Lenawee County, My Rural Source, Saginaw Board, Southeastern Border, which was formerly Monroe County and downriver. Yesterday, we just introduced Northern Great Lakes Realtors. So that is available today. I probably should have put a slide there, but when you log in to Paragon today, you'll see a notice about the new data share for Northern Great Lakes. Now, it's important to note that Northern Great Lakes, because they don't offer any cooperation, it does require a separate link, but it's not, you don't need to know another login. It's not a shared login. It's your access, exclusive access to Northern Great Lakes. So you can set up your clients in there. You can set up save searches, because it's your account and yours only. So it allows you to set up all of the auto prospecting and everything like that within their Paragon. But it is important to note that. So just take a look at the notes. The fact that there is no compensation, you just need to consider that when you first go in. That before you show the property, ensure that you have at least talk to the listing agent or brokerage about how you're going to get paid, because that isn't extended with a non-cooperation data share. But regardless of what it is, it allows you full access to their MLS system, and this is exclusive to us. So nobody else has this in the state. So bear that in mind. But check it out. If you have any questions, you're welcome to just hit the help at the top, and you can inquire that way, either through phone call or messaging, and we'll get back to you immediately, or if you call, we can help you right then and there. Okay, these are the dates that I had mentioned before. Sorry. Come on.
And this is why
Okay, I
live
apologize. That
technology is
dog.
always fun.
Well, I can't
And
leave
you
her out there. It's like 10 degrees.
see, this is what happens when you have a puppy.
Yep. Yep. Okay, so the important dates. Right now, we are in what's called parallel, and that means all listing maintenance, listing. That means listing entry, listing edits, anything like that are going to continue to be done in Realty Server. We did bring your contacts over from Realty Server, so they're there as of today. But if you have any new clients from this week forward, you need to manually enter those into Paragon because we will not be importing contacts at this point forward. Save searches will not be imported. I've done several conversions, and this is still something that just does not convert accurate enough. So, and I will go into how to export that information from Realty Server. Again, you can enter contacts, save searches into Paragon starting this week. And that's what this week means. It's just week of parallel. This is where you're going to be doing your homework. Showing time will continue to be available in Realty Server. Associated documents. We're still working on that. I'm trying to get an exact timeline about getting those documents into Paragon. It'll probably be closer to the end of the month because they are very bulky. So to move all that data, and because your vendor couldn't provide it to us in a standard format, we actually can only do it as a data dump. So that limits on what we can do. February 26th. Now, that is the weekend before the cutover. In other words, what this means is there will not be any listing entry or editing or any maintenance within Realty Server. All you can do is search. You can still schedule showings. Showing time will still be in there, but I encourage everyone to get everything that they need done for the weekend by the morning of Friday, February 26th. Because after that, you're going to have to wait until it's available in Paragon on Monday. So, and what Monday means, that's the cutover. You're now over in Paragon. You're in your new home, which means you're going to be doing all maintenance. If you have to edit your listings, if you have to maintain any of your listings, if you have to enter any new listings, showing time will be available in Paragon. So all of that will be moved over into Paragon. Realty Server will no longer be available as of the end of the day on March 1st. They were able to extend it to the end of the day, but that is it. So bear that in mind. And again, if you have any questions on this, I would encourage you to ask those questions in the question box at any time. We'll answer those as we go. Okay, temporary missing fields, room dimensions. Again, we had problems with these because they were in a non-standard format, so I had to get a little creative on how to pull that data. But with room dimensions, it looks like we're going to have to wait until closer to cutover, that weekend, the cutover. Acreage the same way. It's a conversion, but luckily we are going to get these fields the same with garage, bathroom full, bathroom half. Actually, we do have bathroom full in there, bath half. We're still working on. I got to verify that, but those two should be resolved today. Commercial listings, those should be all updated at this point. So you can see we made progress, you know, as we started these, this parallel, you know, we went into this with some missing fields. And by the end of the week, I can very well say that we can probably remove half of these. But there's probably some more things that we need to do, and that's why I'm going to need your help. So, and I'll go into that shortly. Notable points of difference. Our areas are actually based on the tax authority or the physical location of the property. Where are the taxes being paid? So that's something to note. And your areas were actually kind of a mixture of that. You actually had your POAs in there, which were property owner associations. So we put them in what is actually the standard or the NAR compliant or real estate standards compliant field of association name. So Sugar Springs and some of the other POAs that you have, as well as any HOAs, will be available in there. Waterfront name. That is going to be body of water. That is the standard name that that NAR has mandated, so we're using that. But it is worthy to note that we don't have lookups. The reason is there's over 17,000 lakes that are over 5 acres in the state of Michigan. That is not possible for us to actually provide a pick list or lookups. So these are free form, but fortunately you're able to search on this, and you're able to search on any lake in the state of Michigan, this field. And Colleen will go into that shortly. Statuses, you have an on hold status, which is equivalent to conditionally withdrawn. There's still a listing agreement on the property. It's just off market. Withdrawn is equivalent to unconditionally withdrawn within our system, and that is a void or a torn up agreement at this point. There is no agreement. It's off market. It's available. So new statuses: coming soon and accepting backup offers. Now these are two that you don't have currently in your system. These are two that meet NAR's standards. Coming soon and accepting backup offers. You currently don't have those and you haven't adopted those. That would be up to your board whether you want to, but briefly, coming soon allows a property to be marketed as on market, no showings for 7 days. It allows you to promote the property for up to 7 days before it goes active. Accepting backup offers, that is exactly as it sounds. It's like an active pending. There's an accepted offer on the property. However, they are continuing to accept backup offers on the property. Again, it's entirely up to your board whether you adopt these, but because you're getting into a data share and this new data actually has these statuses, which are recognized by NAR, we have to have a place for those. So that's why you're going to see them. Missing required fields. Now, this isn't something you're going to see at this point, but when we get to the cutover, I'm trying to minimize the number of these fields that if you edit a listing, you're going to have to enter this information. Ownership, while we're able to get bank owned, there is no mandatory field that discloses the ownership of the property. So that's something that you're most likely going to have to enter. Compensations, the sub-agency, buyer agency, and the non-agency are, we did capture those from your system, but they were in a non-standard format. So while we got everything about your compensation, our fields go a little bit further. They disclose yes, no, whether there is a compensation being offered, as well as the amount, the type. That could be a percentage, a dollar amount, or a gradient or tiered, as well as a description. So again, because we're in a data share, we have to have a target for all of this data, and that's how we do it. But these fields are required, so you'll be hit with the yes, no. But again, we'll have more information on that as we get closer to the cutover, so that when we go into March 1st, there won't be any surprises here. We did get your taxes, however, we didn't get summer tax year, winter tax year. It's not uncommon for that information, or actually it's rather common for that information to be published at different times of the year. Total tax, signed disclosures, yes, no. Listing exception, yes, no. Assessments, yes, no. Association, yes, no. That's a field that we've really built on, because we've noticed the need for a lot of these listings have a lot of information relevant to either a homeowners or a property owners association that is relevant more than just amount, the frequency of that association fee, those amenities, because it is a lot of information that you can get. Any restrictions, all of that information is now required if it is under an association, as well as contact information. So this definitely helps the buyer's agency if they have any questions about any rules of the association fees. So they have contact information, amenities, and so on. Additional documents, that has to do with any additional documents over and above what is required from lead-based paint, disclosure forms, and so on. Seller concessions. We were able to get concessions, however, it was in a non-standard, so we just kind of placed it in the amount, but the concessions could mean other things, so it's possible you get hit with this as well. Okay, now the cutover, as I mentioned before. Maintenance and everything, again, it's your new home. Showing time will be available in Paragon starting March 1st. At that point, you'll have to upload any associated documents, disclosures. If they are missing, if we didn't have those will have to be uploaded as well. Syndication and IDX. Now, I noted this here because this is something that these providers have been notified as of last year. It's one of the first things that we do is we reach out to these vendors. If you have a website, an IDX website or anything like that, we notify those providers that your data is going to change. The source of your data is going to change. So I think everyone is on board with that. I'm not going to say there isn't any hiccups. It's almost guaranteed there might be, but we try to minimize that as much as possible. Okay, what you need to do, this is the homework that I had mentioned earlier. The user preparation for Parallel is exporting saved searches from Realty Server. And I'm going to show you how to do that shortly. You need to import them into Paragon. And one thing that I really, really, really need your help with is this right here. Whoops. Is verifying the accuracy of your listings. Nobody knows your listings better than you, or listings better than you in your market. So if you don't have any listings right now, then either go to your past listings that have closed out, or go to someone else's listings that you looked at, but look at them. Just, if you notice anything wrong, missing, inaccurate, hit this corrections button right at the top and then report it. And that allows me to get on top of anything that is missing. I do my best to map everything that you have, but it can't be 100%. I try to minimize anything missing or inaccurate, but only you know your data better. So please, please, please look at your listings or familiar listings and report anything that's missing. And again, contacts automatically imported as of last week. Okay, exporting saved searches within Realty Server. What you're going to do is you're going to go into PCS, your client manager. You're going to click on that, and in there, click on the client's name. and any safe searches under that client will be available. And what you could do is just click on that by either clicking search 1, search 2, or whatever, how many searches there are. And by doing that, it will bring up the information about that saved search with the search name. So you can see this information is available right here. I know this is crude. There's never an effective way to export saved searches, but this is what you're going to have to do. Open up a document file and copy and paste into that document file, and then you're going to have to re-enter this information into Paragon. Again, I know it sucks, it really does, but this is the best approach that we have. Luckily, you're able to see this information. So as you do this, you can at least conveniently go through by clicking Next Contact and grab any of those saved searches. Okay, to make this easier on you, we created or recreated your detail report from Realty Server. So this is about 2 pages long, and where you had tabs, you'll just scroll down. But what I wanted is I wanted this data to be in a familiar place so that you can verify that it's correct. Is everything where it's supposed to be? Are the values correct? Is the area correct? And how you get to that report, because it's not there by default, is when you bring up your listings or any listings for that matter, you'll have this option over to the right. And under available reports to the right, and Colleen will show you this, down under details, you'll see Clare Gladwin, and that's your report. Now, if you like this report so much, you can make it your default detail report. Just click it there, and you can go next, next, next through those listings. So what I really want you to focus on, and I don't want you to limit it to this, but these are some of the most important things, because if I can't locate your properties in the proper location, it's as good as invisible. So it's important that this information is, if it's incorrect, you report it. So as you can see, area, if that isn't where the taxes are being paid, the physical location, need to report it. Municipality should be exactly the same. These two, they're both the same. One of the reasons we have these two, by the way, is because this is a little more consumer friendly. It doesn't have the numbers with the county prefix, which is something that the agents get used to. They know that this area, let's say for instance, there's a number of like Shelby's in the state of Michigan. Well, you know, based on the county prefix, which is a standard by the state of Michigan, those first 2 numbers for that area code indicate what county that area exists in. And we do it for the entire state. Postal city, you know, this is pretty much whatever was in your city field, this should be 1-to-1. School district and geolocation. Now this is the map. If you scroll to the bottom of that report, there's a map there. If that is not correct, you can report it. All you can do is report errors at this point. You cannot change anything. And it's important that I know that it came over wrong. So by reporting that, that lets me know, okay, there was a problem there, and then I investigate and I make sure that that problem doesn't happen again. Okay, again, to remind you, let's export those saved searches beginning today. If you haven't started already, export them into Paragon. Verify the accuracy of your listings or listings that you know of within Paragon. Make sure if there's anything wrong, report it. I want you to irritate me here. I'm getting all of these. So if you suspect or see something wrong, report it. Okay, finally, and this login information, if you haven't logged in yet, it's actually on the handout that's over to the right here. If you click on handout, that is there, as well as, I don't know if Kim distributed these to the members, but this is where you log in. For those of you that already have access to Midland or Saginaw, it's the same system. You're just going to log in there, and then you're going to use the CGB, all capitals, and your current realty server login, all capitals, no spaces, and the password 1111, and it'll prompt you to change that. Needs to be 8 characters, and then you're in. That's your permanent login and password at that point. Now you can change the password within the system at any point under preferences. We're not going to go into that anymore at this time, but that is your permanent login. So any questions at this point? It's a little quiet, but don't hesitate if you have any questions about what Colleen is going to present. Right now, it's just the basics. But just to let you know, we do have more advanced classes that go into Paragon much deeper. That include the advanced classes, the CMAs within Paragon, Paragon Connect. That's a collaboration center, that's actually the client portal, which is equivalent to your PCS. That allows your clients to search, organize, like, dislike, and organize their listings in a manner that makes sense to them. You see that. You can correspond and do everything. They can search if you want them to. So it's a very big piece, and it really deserves its own class. So that is something that we provide. Searching within Realist, we provide that. We provide showing time, as well as specialty classes like lead generation and social media, how to generate business. So we take it much further than just teaching the product and leaving you on your own. We try to make sense of all of these products together. So this is one thing we really take a lot of pride in. Colleen and the education team, they do an awesome job, these classes. So they're very popular. You're on mute.
And Home Snap. Sorry, I chimed in a little early. And Home Snap. So your mobile MLS platform will also have classes on that too. So lots of good stuff coming up. Thank you, Brian, for all that important information. And again, remember that the handout section will also have something that you can download. You can print. If you go to the handout section right in GoToWebinar, it'll give you all that great information so that you have a copy going forward. So, all right. So Brian gave you all the important technical stuff. He's been working day and night to get this conversion to go as smooth as possible, all of your data coming over, which is exciting. And I get to take you on the fun part now. I get to give you the tour of some time-saving tips and techniques that you can do in Paragon. So I'm going to show you, and I say this as an agent of 22 years myself, I want to show you what's really going to make it easy when you're working out in the field. How do you search faster? Search more efficiently? What are the shortcuts? Because I'm all about the shortcuts as a mom and as an agent and also working for the MLS. So I'm all about what makes it fast, what makes it easy, how do I find the information quicker, how, if a buyer sends me 10 things from Zillow, can I pull it up with putting it in one field and having everything in front of me, so that now with our buyers looking on syndication sites and IDX sites and getting information, how do we quickly find that and email it over to our contacts or text it to our contacts? I'm going to show you all of those great features today. All right, I'm going to take my fuzzy hair off the screen, and then you're going to be able to see Paragon in its entirety. And you're going to notice just a couple quick differences as we get started. So as you can see on my screen, when I log in, mine looks slightly different than yours. But that's just because my MLS, obviously I don't belong to your board, so it's gonna look a little bit different in this center section. So where you're gonna see my MLS information, keep in mind what you're going to see logging in when you log in is going to be the Clare Gladwin information, upcoming classes. You know, right now I think Brian was kind enough to put your website, the Clare Gladwin website, in the middle. So you'll see a lot of cool things coming up. You'll see messaging kind of talking about what's new. As a matter of fact, when we logged in today, you noticed that we had information that, you know, you guys were joining us. So that was kind of the pop-up message. But you'll see things like this, but they'll be your board specific messages. The rest of Paragon is going to look pretty similar. Now, my border up here may look slightly different, but that's just because you can customize the different themes. There's a whole bunch of different themes, and there's some funny ones in there too. So when you're using the MLS every day, you can sort of change it up. It doesn't get so boring. I know the groundhog said that he did see his shadow, so we were going to have more winter, but I'm ready for spring. So I've already gone ahead and changed to the spring theme up here. So, but everything else should look pretty similar. Like the side panels when you're logging in, they're going to look similar. But one of the unique features in Paragon is that you can actually customize how Paragon looks and works to meet your business. And I like this as an agent. The first change that I made that made it a little bit easier for me was I liked my quick search on the right-hand side. I am right-handed. So keep in mind, you can put these panels in any order you wish when you're looking at this. For me, I'm right-handed, kind of like to be able to see everything in my top half of my view, so that just made a little bit more sense for me. So you can drag and drop your side panels in any order that you want. And for me, because I'm right-handed, I sort of like that a little bit more. I use that more, so I want it on my right-hand side. Now, one of the first questions I always get with agents converting from other MLSs, well, how do I search fast? Well, there is really 3 different ways to search. I mean, you can search a lot of different ways, but there are 3 main ways to search when you're going into Paragon. So let me explain. If you just got a call and you have a client that says, hey, I want some information on a particular property, it's 41104, I think it was, Turnberry. I can go ahead and start typing an address in at the top here. And what that's going to allow me to do is pull up a property, one specific property, very quickly. So I can go ahead and say, okay, I'm looking for a particular address. I can type that in. You can even just start typing in the beginning of the address. And that will allow you to find it very quickly. So again, if I'm putting in a particular address, maybe you're looking for 123 Cherry Street, all you have to do is start typing in that address, and it's immediately going to show you 123 Cherry Streets. Of course, the active ones will be right at the top for you, and you'll also see that there are some closed. Well, if that property may have closed a couple of times and I want to see all the search results, I can go right up to listings where it says listings. There's 7 results here. I can go ahead and click on that, and I can pull up all of those results very quickly and easily, just like that. So keep in mind, this power search that you're seeing at the top, this is really where you're trying to find one property very quickly. So 123 Main Street, 123 Cherry Street, whatever it happens to be, it's where you're trying to find one particular address without having to put a lot of information in. By the way, you can do this with MLS numbers too. So I could go ahead and type in up to 30 different MLS numbers in that power search and bring all of those up. Now, quite honestly, I would never do that. But if I am looking for one particular MLS number and I just want to be able to find it very quickly, that would be a great thing to do. Just type in that MLS number at the top and I can pull up those records. One thing Brian kind of touched on earlier was that from going forward, March 1st, you're going to be putting all of your listings into Paragon. Until March 1st, you're going to continue doing your listing entry and your listing maintenance in Realty Server. And the reason I always question, well, why do we do that? Well, we don't want to have any duplicate records. So what Brian mentioned is you're going to do all of the adding of the listing, all of the price changes, comment changes, status changes. You're going to do all of those through Realty Server until March 1st. As of March 1st, you're going to start doing all your entry right into Paragon. So that means because before you only had Clare Gladwin information, but now remember you're going to be data sharing. That means you're going to see a lot more listings, even more listings in your own area. So that means that there will also be a data sharing number. So when you enter things into Paragon, the MLS number is going to get a little bit longer. But don't worry, I'm going to show you how to still go back and be able to use those Realty Server MLS numbers too. So I'll show you that in just a couple of moments. But in our power search, I mentioned you can go ahead and put in an address and find it quickly. But what about an MLS number? Yes, you can do that, and you can do a couple of them if you just remember to separate them by commas. But you can also do an agent name. So I'm going to use Gail today on our call. Gail, let's say I ran into her at a restaurant last night and she has a buyer, and I mentioned, oh, I'm going to be putting a listing in tomorrow morning and it sounds like it'd be perfect for your buyer. So Gail wakes up this morning, she can't remember the address, but she knows it's my listing and she knows she wants to get her buyer in right away. She can actually type in my name, and what you can see is my listing inventory starts to pop up here. And down here, if she wants to find my phone number, maybe she wants my cell phone number, she wants to call me about it, she wants to call my office, she just wants my contact information, all she has to do is click on my name, and now she has all of that. Okay, so it just makes it a little easier to find it. So if you're finding one property, one agent, one MLS number, that's really when this power search is really handy. Okay, so it's really to help you find one property fast. But let's say that you're at the office, you're walking through the office, and somebody calls and they're looking, it's a new buyer, they're looking for a home. You just want to quickly pull up a few options for them. Well, that's really when this quick search over here comes into play. So the power search is great if you're finding one property, but what if you're talking to a potential buyer and they have 5 or 6 properties that they're looking at? That's really when this quick search really comes into play. So I may be looking for a 3-bedroom, talking on the phone to this buyer, and he has to have at least 3 bedrooms. He's looking in Sterling Heights. I can start typing in that city name. Maybe he's also considering Warren. Obviously, these are properties a little bit closer down here to me in my area, but I'm going to show you your area as well. Maybe I know they're pre-approved up to a certain amount. Maybe I know they are looking for a condo or maybe a single family home. So I can actually start typing in the detail right here. Maybe I know they have to have a basement. And the idea is now I'm going in and I am refining what that buyer is looking for. So I'm looking for active listings only for that buyer in those 2 cities. So this is a really easy way to find properties quickly. Maybe I know he's looking from 2 to 250. Now I can go ahead and quickly pull up those search results. I can see right now we have an all-time shortage of inventory, I'm sure much like you're probably seeing. So there are 6 listings that fall in that category, and I can go ahead and hit search and quickly pull those items up. Okay, when I'm ready to review the details of those properties, I can simply click on the MLS number. And here's where I'm going to see all that great information about the property. As Brian mentioned, under reports, because we know change is extremely hard, under reports, we actually created the Clare Gladwin. And Brian went through and actually tried to go into Realty Server and kind of lay this out. It's not exact, but he laid it out kind of like it was in Realty Server. So if you're looking for something, you can kind of go to that same area, find out who had it listed, get their details, find out the directions to the property, legal description. So we tried to put it in that same user-friendly layout. Another important note is when you are sending clients a report, you can actually use any one of the reports that say client. Now, obviously, the agent ones are going to have agent information that maybe only you want to see. However, if I'm sending something to my client, I really like the MLS client view. If I click on that report, then it's going to show a nice one-page report with my branding, my contact information at the bottom. It'll show the map, it'll show all the photos, it is interactive. And by the way, one of the changes that I saw when I went into Realty Server, I didn't find a place that you could text listings. So if most of my buyers are doing everything on their phones these days. So if I want to go ahead and text this listing to a contact, I can just go to share, text, and I can actually even pull up a contact that I already have saved, and I can text it right over to them. Now, as Brian mentioned, we did pull over your contacts as of last week. Any new contacts that you have, of course, you want to enter into Paragon. Paragon also has something, I believe it was called Concierge, or I think it was Concierge in Realty Server, where you can actually set up a client with a search. So you put in all their search criteria, what they're looking for, and it will automatically send an email every time a new listing pops up on the market that meets their criteria. Why that's so helpful right now is in this shortage of inventory, we want to make sure any new listings are getting right over to our buyer. We have a whole class on what we call the Collaboration Center, where you can actually collaborate with your clients. These notifications can be sent immediately over to your buyer, but it also allows you to communicate, see what your buyer likes, what they don't like, and get them right into any new listings right away. Okay, so keep in mind there are a bunch of different reports that you can choose from. The ones for your clients that I would recommend would be MLS Client View. And I also like the, what did I do with my client full package? There is, let's see, I think client full package was another one that I like. Client gallery view is good. Oh, here it is right here, just being blind today. But client full package, that is another really good report for your clients because it has your branding, but it also has the room sizes. It also has the interior photos. It has the map, and your clients can even go in. They can move that little yellow Google man right in front of the home. So they can even take a look, and I can see the Edison fields are right here, but I can go down the street and I can take a look to the left of the property, to the right. I can do a 360 view, and I can literally walk down the road and see that home without having to drive across town. Because remember, you're not just seeing the Clare Gladwin information anymore. You're going to be able to cover a much larger area if you choose to, because you're going to be able to see those neighboring MLS listings. Okay. All right, so again, if you have any questions, feel free to jump right in there and we can go ahead and address them because I'm going to go at kind of a pretty good clip. So there is a questions box within your GoToWebinar panel. If you do have any questions today, go ahead and just throw them in that questions box and we can get them answered for you, okay? All right, so just kind of a quick recap. Up here at the top, we've got a great way to find a single agent, single address, or MLS numbers very quickly. Over here in our quick search, this is a great option if I'm talking to someone on the phone, they're looking for a 3-bedroom, this price range in a certain city. We're going to talk about how you can be even more specific. We're going to talk about how you can search by like body of water or lake names. We're going to talk a lot about those types of details too. But one of the things that I think I begged Brian for about 1.5 years. And by the way, Brian he's so very humble, but he really is the genius behind all of this integration and the fields that you're seeing. One of the things I asked for a long time was this full addresses field. And I kept saying, Brian, with all these syndication sites like Realtor.com, Zillow, and Truly, and all these other sites, as well as the IDX sites, we're getting so many buyers today. They're calling with like 7 or 8 addresses. Now, I certainly don't want to have to go up here and type in 7 or 8 addresses, pull them up one at a time, write the numbers down, because now I want to email them after my call. That would be such a pain, right? What if I told you if your buyer emailed or called you with those 7 or 8 addresses, you could simply type them into the full addresses field, Or better yet, you could copy and paste right from an email. So let's say that your buyer just called and he said, you know what, I'd like some information on 123 Cherry Street, but you know what, I'm also interested in 123 Main Street. But I saw this great little house at, what is it, 411069 Turnberry, or 411, can't even remember my own listing. So we'll do 123 Turnberry. So as you keep typing, you can actually hit enter and it will start separating those addresses out for you. Now, the nice thing is you can put up to 30 addresses in one field. And then I always get the question, well, what if it's Cherry Street? Or what if it's Main Boulevard? Or what if it's Turnberry Lane? Well, don't worry, it's still going to find all of those for you, because what happens is behind Cherry Street, there is an invisible wildcard or search, basically a little hidden search card. So no matter how it ends, whether it's Cherry Lane, Cherry Drive, Cherry Street, it will still find it and pull it up for you. So again, the full addresses is perfect if you want to go in and you want to find a bunch of addresses quickly. Now, if a buyer emailed you a bunch of addresses that they found on sites online, you can go ahead. What I generally do is I will hit the forward button so that I can easily copy them. I also want to make sure that I've put commas in between them, and then I can simply paste them into the full addresses field. Now I can put up to 30 addresses at once. I can go ahead and simply click my search key. And instead of having to kind of jot them all down, searching one by one by one, well, now when I'm ready to wrap up my call with that buyer, I can simply choose to email everything directly after. So we're going to pretend these were all active for a moment. I'm going to say, yep, I want to send these over to Barry now. I can simply check them all off. I can now go ahead and email them directly by clicking the email button. Gives you a couple different types of ways you can email them. And all I do is hit compose email and they're off and running. So it's really easy. Or if you wanted to choose to send them by text, you could do that too. And as you can see right in my email, I've got my subject line, my photo. So it's really all set. I'm ready to send these out immediately. If you wanted to text these, again, you could do that too by going right under the share button. Or if you wanted to print them, maybe they're coming to pick them up, well, you can go ahead and do that too right from the print button. So it makes it really easy to share these listings. As we get further in and we're turning on showing time as of March 1st, we're going to show you great ways to use the showing time carts. So it will actually map you. So you're not driving from one end of town to the other. We'll show you some great and easy ways to get into properties quicker. We'll show you all of that coming up. All right. So again, just kind of a quick recap because we want to make sure that you're fully comfortable searching in Paragon. You've got your single property search. You can search for a single property, MLS number, or agent up here. Quick search is really great if you're trying to find a couple properties fast. But then there's another field that I would recommend adding to your quick search, and that is the original MLS number. Now, as I mentioned, when you start adding your listings into Paragon, it will have a little bit larger MLS number because remember, you're now sharing with a much greater area. So just we had to add a few identifying characters so we know that the information is coming from Clare Gladwin and it goes out into the data sharing. However, let's say somebody called you with an old Realty server number, or maybe you only know it by that particular MLS number. And what I did is I went into Realty server this morning and I grabbed an ML number. And so if you want to still search by the Realty server number, you can go into this original MLS number field. You could type that right in and I could go ahead and search that way. So again, if you only have the Realty server ML number, you can still search that way. There's one small caveat though. You do need to add this field into your quick search if you want to be able to search that way. This is one of the unique things about Paragon. You can go in and add whatever fields you want. You can remove fields you never use. and you can rearrange them. If I have something important to me, I don't want to have to always scroll all the way down to the bottom to be able to find it, right? I want to be able to just right here at the top of my screen, type it in. So in order to do that, you're going to go to the Customize button, this little gear right here at the top. And if your GoToWebinar box is covering it, it's kind of up in the right-hand corner, looks kind of like a little gear. When you run your mouse over it, it will say Edit Widget. And that means that you can edit anything in that box. So we're going to click on that. Because I already have it in here, I'm going to take it out for just a moment so I can show you how to add it. Once this box opens up, you're going to go right to the Find box. And all I really need to do is type in original. And as you can see right here, original MLS number pops right up. Check it off. Hit Add to your quick search. It's always going to drop it at the bottom, but maybe I want that at my very top. I can go ahead and I can drag that right up to exactly where I want. Now, let me also clarify that the only one you can't really move around is the search by map. Everything else you can move around. So if you wanted basement up at the top, full addresses at the top, you can simply drag and drop them into any order you wish. Then just remember, apply and save it as your default. And then that's going to go ahead and always put your MLS number right where you decided it was important. That's the nice thing about Paragon is everybody kind of does something a little bit different. And so this allows you to go ahead and drag and drop fields into the appropriate location so that they match what you're trying to do in your business. Okay, so again, don't be afraid to rearrange your fields, add fields that you feel are important. Another cool feature is, let's say that you're typing in the same thing again and again for a particular area. Maybe you do a particular quick search quite often. Well, you can go ahead and you can actually save your quick search, and then you can load it right back up. So I can go ahead and save one and pull it back up. Quite honestly, a lot of times I'll just go to my history. Remember, if you go to last quick search history, you can actually pull up the last 15 quick searches that you've done. So don't be afraid to, let's say you're typing in information, you get up, you have somebody come to the lobby, you walk away and you're like, oh, geez, I don't want to have to enter all that again. Well, all you have to do is go back to your history under your last quick search and then pull up that quick search and it'll put in all the criteria you already entered. Okay, so it just makes it a little bit easier. So again, if you want to find one property, one agent, one MLS, that's where the power search is good. Quick search, you want to find a couple properties very quickly. Maybe you're talking to someone on the phone, or maybe someone sent you some addresses from Zillow or Realtor.com, whatever it happens to be. Use that full addresses search so you can pull up to 30 properties at once. But what if you've got that detailed buyer? So I'm right now working with a buyer. He has to have a 3-car garage, has to have a pole barn. He is looking for land contract financing, right? Needs a certain amount of square footage. That's where we're getting into more detailed searching. So that's really when you want to do your detailed search, which is going to be up here under your search icon. Now, search is pretty much where you can search for anything, by the way. You could search for upcoming open houses or tours, back when we get to do open houses again. Or maybe you're looking for your inventory, how much inventory you've sold this year. But really, this is also where you're going to do your detailed searches by class. Now, here's a couple little tips and tricks. Your single family search, that's obviously a residential condo search. There's also vacant land, there's commercial. But what if you have that buyer who says, you know what, Colleen, I'm looking for a really good deal on a piece of vacant land, but if you find me something with a house on it, that's a really good deal. I'd look at that too. Well, there's also a multi-class search, and that would cover more than one of the classes. So you could put in exactly what your buyer happens to be looking for. But today we're going to kind of keep it really run-of-the-mill. We're going to do a single family home just to kind of go into more detailed searching. This is where you could search on like a particular lake name. This is where you could search for different types of financing. This is where you could search for features. So this gets a little bit more detailed. So let's take a look at this one. So under type, now when I first started using Paragon, I had no idea what that meant. What are they asking for? So if you know what a particular field is calling for, you can go ahead and start typing it in. But if you don't know, you can always go to the right where this magnifying glass is and simply check off what you're looking for. So are we looking for a condo, farm, residential? We're going to say he's looking for a residential or single family home. Next is the status. Right now, there's such a shortage of inventory. I might be looking for actives, but maybe you're doing something like trying to find comps for a listing appointment tonight. Well, that's when, again, I would probably want to find my closed properties. I'm going to be honest that I hate these little MOS calendars when you're trying to do, like 6 months back. I prefer using these simple date ranges. If I want to go 6 months back to find my comps, I want to be able to just choose that right from the drop down. For here, maybe I want to just find things that closed, not interested in any leases. I'm going to skip down over the address and city and county because I'm going to show you how to actually find comps within a certain, let's say you're looking between 1 mile or 3 miles. I'm going to show you how to search that way too. Structure style is it a ranch? Is it maybe a colonial that you're trying to find comps for? So I'm going to say that I'm looking for 1-story comps, and maybe I'm looking for at least 3 bedrooms. Now here's an important tip. This bathrooms total is not my favorite field as an agent. I'm going to tell you why. This bathrooms total is basically counting, and I wish there was a nicer way to say this, but it's basically counting the number of toilets in the entire home. That means basement, above grade square footage too. I'm embarrassed to say that I recently showed a home and unfortunately it had a bathroom in an unfinished attic that the agent actually had the nerve to count, which I thought was very interesting. But anyway, this is really counting the number of bathrooms in the entire home, or number of toilets, if you will, think of it that way. But as an agent, if I'm really going to comp out a home, I really want to be much more exact. I'm also going to use Gail again from our class list today. And I'm going to say that Gail is working with a buyer. And this particular buyer said to Gail, I have 6 daughters, Gail. I have not had a hot shower in 2 years. Well, this poor buyer, he really needs 2 full baths. Now, when most buyers say 2 full baths, what they're looking for is they're really looking for 2 full baths on the upper square footage of the home or the livable levels of the home, right? They're really not always looking for basement full baths. So if Gail did just this and she went to bathrooms total and she put in 2, well, poor Gail could be dragging her buyer through a bunch of bath and a halves, right? Because that's 2 toilets in the home. Well, if Gail wanted to be much more specific, what she would really want to do is scroll down to secondary criteria. Okay, if you click that little drop down next to secondary criteria, it opens another level that you can search on. Now, I'm going to be totally honest with you. As an agent, I don't want to always have to scroll down. I want the stuff I'm really using to be right up here in my primary. So keep in mind, you can do that. You can customize where your fields lie. So if you want what I'm about to show you in your primary, you can absolutely move it up. Remember how I showed you can drag and drop those fields into the right place? Well, Gail says she wants 2 full baths, a minimum of 2 full baths on the above grade square footage, on the livable levels of the home. This ensures that she's not dragging them through a bunch of bath and a halves. Now, if it's 2 and it also has a half bath, it's still going to find that. But I'm making sure that that poor buyer with the 6 daughters who hasn't had a hot shower, I'm making sure he has at least 2 full baths on the above grade square footage on the livable levels of the home. Okay. Now, you can do half baths the same way. And what I do recommend is moving this up into your primary. As an agent, I think these are way more accurate ways to search. And I also think you'll get even better comps by making sure that you're drilling down into the exacts. Right here, if I want to move year built up, which I commonly search by, I can do that as well. So don't be afraid to kind of play with those orders. You can always take something and move it up to the top if you're having to scroll down every single time and that's a problem. All right, so as I go forward, pretty self-explanatory. Basement, yes, no. Waterfront, yes, no. Above grade square footage, minimum and maximum, pretty easy. Number of cars, no shockers there. But what about if there is some features a buyer really has to have or a buyer really does not want to have? So let's take a look at the features next. So if I have a buyer and the buyer says, you know, we have to have an in-ground pool. Okay, I can start typing in under the features section that they have to have an in-ground pool. That means if I set my buyer up with that automatic prospecting, meaning that automatic delivery of any new listing, anything that does not have an in-ground pool, that's not going to go to my buyer because I said this was a must-have. This is something he absolutely has to have in order for him to consider it. So keep in mind there are three different features. There's must-have, must not have, or must have one or more. Maybe you have a buyer who said to you, I have a workshop, I have to have a pole barn. You can actually type in must have. Again, that's the only way it's going to automatically travel over to your buyer. Or maybe you just want to see the search results. If you put in must have, it means it does look to ensure that it has that before it comes into your search results. Most of my clients are kind of the opposite. I find that they say, I don't want to have a pool. Okay, so that would mean I could put in must not have. Anything then listed with the pool is not going to show up in my search results and is not going to be sent over to the buyer. Okay, so pretty self-explanatory. I have a client right now who had a terrible experience with a septic field. She ended up having to put in unexpectedly a raised engineered septic field. It cost her $17,000 and she called me and said, I don't ever want to deal with another septic field ever again. So if I wanted to make sure that nothing with a septic went to her, I would simply start typing that in must not have. All right, but then there are, I always say, I get the crazy buyers. I have some of the best stories over my last 22 years of just buyers who, you know, they just have all these unique needs, and most buyers today have all these haves and wants and there's no inventory, so it just gets a little crazy. But what if you have a buyer who very explicitly says, you know what, I either have to have a pole barn or maybe a workshop or an oversized lot because he has maybe he has a manufacturing business that he does out of his home or something like that. So there are great ways to say it must have at least one of these items in order to go over to my buyer. So it has to have at least one of these features in order for him to consider it. Now, you're probably thinking, well, how do I know what to type in here? You know, I mean, there's thousands of features. How do I know? Well, if you don't know, you can always go over to the magnifying glass to the right, and that will give you a whole bunch of categories. For instance, I'm going to use Gail again. I hope you don't mind, Gail. Thank you for attending today because I'm using you as some examples. But I'm going to say Gail, again, is working with that buyer. And he says, Gail, I have to have a finished basement. Don't even show me something without a finished basement. Well, we know that that would be the must have, right? So I can go to the basement types and I could quickly find that. But I'm going to show you some other really cool things that you can do with features. One is financing terms. Every once in a while, we get those special buyers who have to go maybe land contract. Maybe they have to, maybe they've been pre-approved, but only with FHA 203K financing. So there are ways that you can actually search right from different financing types. Okay, so you can do that under financial terms. But where I actually use these the most, sometimes if you're, let's say you're looking for a condo, sometimes you want to know, you want to make sure that they're able to bring their dogs along, or what pet restrictions do they have? That's another really good searching option. Another one that I use quite often, especially in my area, I'm very close to Lake St. Clair, where I live and where I work. And so water features, this is a really big one for us. I have a client who says, you know, I have a boat. I don't really care if I'm actually on lake frontage, river frontage, or just on a canal. I just have to have a seawall to make sure I can put my boat in the water. Okay, no problem. So what we're really going to do in that case is we're going to say, okay, he doesn't care if he's on the canal. So I'm going to go to must have one or more. But, you know, and if he's off Harson's Island, he's okay with that too. He'd love lake frontage. But you know what? If he just has river access to get his boat to the lake, that's okay. River frontage would be okay. He wants a seawall. So I can actually go in and put must have one or more of these items. And as long as it has at least one of those features, it's going to show up in his search results. Okay, so hopefully that kind of makes sense. Again, I'm going at a pretty good clip. So if you have any questions, go ahead and throw them right in that questions box that is in your GoToWebinar panel, which kind of should be minimized now over at the right-hand side of your screen. Okay. All right, so features, hopefully you're pretty comfortable with those. Now I know in my research and looking through Realty Server and talking to Kim Hatchu and Mary and a few others, you guys have Sugar Springs, which obviously Brian addressed early on. We're going to be adding, there's an association name in here, but with Sugar Springs, we're also adding a POA name. So that will actually help you out a lot with the Sugar Springs area and searching a little more efficiently there. But for you guys, one of the things that I heard time and time again was searching by lake name is going to be extremely important. So I'm going to show you how to do that, but there is one step in setting that up so it works efficiently for you. And what that is going into your customizing, because not everybody may sell on the lake. So I want to go into customize fields, and lake name for us is body of water. So I'm going to go to find. You might want to put this down in your notes. And I want to find the body of water field. Okay, so I'm going to check that off. Just like we did in our first example of adding items to our quick search that may be important to our business, body of water sounds like it's going to be important possibly to your business. So I want to add that into my fields for searching. Okay, so I now want to, and you want to do apply and save. I'm just going to apply it. Now, body of water, if I scroll down here, you're going to see that right at the bottom. Again, you could move this to the top. Remember, I showed you that if you just go into your fields and you drag and drop these items, you can put them in any order you want. But body of water, so let's say you are looking on, I believe it was Wixom Lake out by you. I tried to do a little homework here. So less is going to be best because remember, it has that built-in wildcard. So I'm going to type in Wixom. Now, I'm trying to find homes that would be active for my buyer. So it's going to show me 33 lakes or 33 properties on Wixom Lake. I'm going to do for sale. So I'm going to bring those down a little bit. And then I could go ahead and hit search and see all the properties that would fall on Wixom Lake. So body of water is the way you're going to search for a particular lake name. If you have more than one lake, you could type that in. Now, I know a lot of people requested, was there a lake name lookup? Unfortunately, in Michigan, because remember, if you're just looking at a small section of the state, that's probably possible. But when you're looking at Michigan in the data sharing effort that we have, and our goal is to have 100% of the statewide data sharing, and we're very close to that now. When you're looking at Michigan, remember there are over 17,000 lakes, according to the DNR, that are a certain size. I mean, there's a lot of little lakes too that they don't even count. And there are something like 8 deer lakes just in Michigan. So that's where the drop downs become a little bit, you don't want to have to look through 17,000 lake names. At least I don't. So I want to be able to just type in the beginning of the lake name, and I want to be able to search that way. So you can do that under body of water. Now, one thing I also want to point out is the data is only as good as the agents putting the data in, right? I mean, we talk about this all the time. So if there's no information in a particular field, well, that is not helpful for us as agents. So let me tell you kind of what I mean. So I'm going to enter just a little criteria here to make it make more sense. But let's take subdivision. In my area, subdivision is not a required field. Okay, so what that's going to mean is that if an agent doesn't bother to put in the subdivision name and I'm looking for comps, well, I may not actually find that. So if I am going to actually do a really detailed search and I want to make sure I'm getting everything, and right now with such a low amount of inventory, that's so important, I probably am going to want to search by map, because whether the agent put the subdivision name in or not, I can still pull up those properties. Let me show you what I mean. Right here is the search by map feature, and this uses Google Maps, so it's very, very accurate. When I open up my map, it kind of opens to my office location. But if I were actually searching for comps, so let me show you what I mean. In my area, I just listed a little house on Wessel Drive. So if I type in the listing appointment I have tonight, so we're going to do Wessel, comma, the city. Okay, now this happens to be Wessel Drive, but I always recommend leaving off the drives, the ways, the places. Less is always best, especially when you're like doing something Google-esque like this. So I'm going to say that the property address is 41539 Wessel Drive, but I'm just going to put in 41539 Wessel, comma, the city. What that's going to do is it's going to throw me right to that subject property. So here's my little subject flag. If I kind of zoom out a little bit, you're going to see the schools that are closed. It's going to give me that detailed map. But if I am doing let's say I'm looking for comps, I'm going on a listing appointment for that property, and I know it's a pretty common area. I know my appraiser is going to search for comps within 1 mile of that subject property. I can type in 1 and search the radius. I didn't put any criteria in here, so you can see how many properties I have. If I want to add more criteria, so I don't have quite so many, I could say, okay, I only want to see properties within the last 6 months. Now, as I go back to my map, and by the way, you can see I'm just toggling these 3. Here's my criteria. Here's my map. Now you can see I've brought that down to a nice manageable number. And when you see this little subject flag right here, okay? If I click on that, that tells me that there's 1 active property, but these numbers that are clustered are just properties that are closer together. So if I kind of zoom in, yep, I'll break those apart. You'll see more of the flags individually. But if you want to see all 3 properties very quickly, you could just click on the number 3, and I can now go into each one of those very easily. Okay, so keep in mind when you are looking for comps, especially, this is a nice, easy way to find comps. I'm also going to just change to where you are. So I'm going to go up to, actually, let's make this Gladwin. And we're going to do, okay, I'm going to kind of jump up to Clare Gladwin. I'm going to say, okay, I'm looking at Clare Gladwin. I'm going to kind of zoom out just a little bit to kind of see my map. And you can, of course, zoom in or out, move your map to the left or to the right. You're just going to use the plus and minus button here at the bottom of the page. Now, the cool thing here is if you have a buyer and that buyer is looking in multiple areas, I can actually draw exactly where that buyer wants to live. So kind of going back to that subdivision example. So let's say that you have a buyer and that buyer says, Gail, I want to live in a particular subdivision. Remember, we don't really want to search by subdivision name, because if the agent doesn't bother to put that in for a particular sub, well, then I'm not pulling up those results. But maybe that buyer says, Gail, I don't want to live south of Highway 61. I don't want to live east of James Robertson Drive. I like that Weber area. That's great. But my mother-in-law lives over here by Highway 18 and Park Street, so I don't want to live too close to mom's there. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to literally click to start and stop anywhere that my buyer may want to live. Okay, so I can literally draw up to 10 different shapes. Now you can see we're getting results right away here, but maybe he also was looking at some property. Let's say he's also looking at some property up here north of, I hope I say this road name, Clending Road. Let's say he's looking a little bit north of there. So I can also go in and I can draw a shape over here just going to do it kind of quickly, of maybe he's looking in there as well. So I can draw multiple shapes on my map, up to 10 shapes, but there's also some interesting things you can do with the shapes that you're drawing. So I'm going to add one more here just for a good example. I'm going to say that he's also considering some waterfront property over here. Okay, so I'm going to just quickly draw another shape. So I've got a couple shapes on my map, but let's switch gears for a minute. So this is great if you have a buyer, right? Because your buyer may want multiple cities, he might want exact areas. But what if you're doing comps? Let's go back to that. I'm going to list a property and I want to find comps. Now I got a little, we're going to pretend I got a little brick ranch over here. But Gail has just listed all these wonderful $1 million Sugar Springs, really fancy estates. And I know I'm not in Sugar Springs, but I'm just using it as an example. So Gail has these $1 million fancy CMA properties over here, but you know what? I really have a brick ranch over here. I don't want to include her big fancy properties because it's going to really mess up my CMA numbers. Well, what you can do is you can actually draw a shape on your shape. So let's pretend Gail's fancy listings were right here on this waterfront area. Okay, so I'm drawing my shape. I want to exclude those. So I've basically said, I'm going to go to edit, and I'm going to, instead of including those, I'm going to exclude those fancy $1 million waterfront listings so that they don't screw up my comps. So when I do that, literally what I'm doing is anything that would have fallen in here would now be excluded. Now, speaking of CMAs, if you are doing a CMA, let's say you're trying to find comps for your listing, I'm just going to move my box over here. When we do our results, there are CMA reports even. So if I now click my run search results, remember how we were talking about, let's say go ahead and show our results. Remember how we were talking about the different types of reports just a few moments ago? If I pull up my search results here, and let's say, I'm just going to use the first couple just to make it simple and fast here today. All right, so I've got some search results. I got a few closed, a few active. And by the way, you can put them in any order you want. This is kind of like a big Excel spreadsheet. You can click on that status button and sort active with active, closed with closed, so you can see what you're actually selecting. But if I go over here to reports, and by the way, if you only want to see the ones you selected, you can just hit this checked button. Because I have a little OCD. I like to see just what I'm working with. Just show me the facts. Now, if I go over to the reports option, there is a folder called CMA Reports. So if I just wanted to do a CMA on these properties, I could do, excuse me, I could do a quick CMA view, which would stack the reports next to each other. I could add whatever columns I want to with the customize. So maybe I want price per square foot, days on market. You could put them in any order you want. There's also a CMA summary and a CMA spreadsheet, which will actually just break it down nice and easy. No pictures, just what is it going to sell for? How long is it going to take? What's the average square footage? Things like that. So it just makes it really a nice, easy view. Okay, so remember all different types of results. When it comes to doing your searches and in your mapping, you can also add layers. And I wanted to add this just for this training because I know you guys have, with that Midland area having a lot of flooding, I know it affected you folks as well. So what you may want to do is you may want to add the layers. So I'm going to take some of these off just to make it a little less confusing as I show you. You may want to add layers, things like what falls in a floodplain. Maybe your clients don't want to live in a floodplain area. They can go to this layers and you can go to floodplain, check that off. And as you can see right here, it's adding that floodplain information. You can also add things like attendance zones, and you can even click the labeling button. And if you have a school attendance zone, it's going to show you whereabouts they would need to live to go to a particular school. So keep in mind, you can add things like parcel lines, postal codes, all those interesting things. Another thing that you can do is if you are working with a buyer and you set them up in our collab center, we're going to show you that after March 1st. We'll have all those classes coming up. But you and your buyer can also use that little Google man again, and you can actually set them in front of a particular property. Look what a cute street this is. I can see properties to the left. Again, I can see properties to the right. So your buyer can literally walk down the road without having to drive anywhere. Such a cute street. All right, so we've kind of gone over some of the basics in searching. We talked about lake name, how to find MLS numbers using the Realty server in our quick search. So remember, power search at the top. That's really going to be where we're trying to find one property, one agent, or one MLS number. Quick search, maybe you want to find a quick Realty server MLS number. Maybe you want to find a couple properties or find something that your buyer sent over from a syndicated site. That's a perfect example of quick searching. Right over here, got our traditional searching so that we can search with a little more detail by financing, lake names, things like that. Keep in mind, your contacts are now something that you want to put into Paragon. So you can go right up to contacts. You can add a contact very easily. Again, Brian brought them over as of last week, but anything new you want to add into Paragon, you can put in their contact information, spouse information. I've even gone in and done some customizing because I like to use it as a little bit of a CRM too. So my son goes to Catholic school over here, and I like to keep track of the moms and dads so that sometimes when they have school events, I'll do some marketing to them. So I can actually put in Jake's school and I can create a group. So I know when I'm ready to do mailers or things like that, I can see that right from here. You also are going to have some new great tools as far as using tax information. Let me kind of show that to you. I'm a big fan of this. Your board elected to give you all 83 counties, of Realist. And what that means is, let me see if I can find a really quick and easy one to show you. If I'm looking at a particular listing and I want to get the tax information by simply clicking on a button, I'm going to use this little red button right here. I can click on the Realist information for that property and I can get all of the details. Who owns the property? I can get the legal description, the flood zone information. I can see the tax information. I can scroll down to the bottom and even see the characteristics. I can see this is built on a basement, the above grade square footage, when it was built, how many stories. So when I'm preparing to go and list this property, I have all of the details. I can see if it's ever been listed before. I can also see when it was sold. I can see here that it actually went into sheriff's sale. So I can see that this was foreclosed on. Actually, I can see it was foreclosed on twice. So I can see all of that detail. You can even see refi records. So if they refied, which they did, this was a great example to use today, I can see when they refied and for how much. So if I'm actually walking into that home to tell them what the home is worth, I have enough knowledge ahead of time to know if I might be walking in and they may be upside down. So there's some great we're going to have classes on this. Realist also has marketing options, lead generation tools. It's got a lot of cool stuff. So we're going to be talking more about that in the future. But remember, you have some homework today. So as we wrap up, we are asking you to go into your market monitor and check your listings for accuracy. So right on your front page in your dashboard, we talked about the quick search over here, but you have a market monitor. When you click on My Info and you go to My Listings, you'll see a number here. I'm just going to use the market one here. If I go into that number and I click on My Listings, that's where I want to go in and I want to check over my listings to make sure the information is coming over correctly. Make sure your photos are there. Make sure if anything is missing that you click on that corrections button for us. This gives Brian a chance to correct anything that may be missing, or nobody knows your listings like you do, as he mentioned. So anything that may be missing or may be incorrect, or maybe showing up in the wrong field, this is our time to correct that before going live, before our cutover on March 1st. So again, if you find anything that's not here, you want to go right into that corrections button and let Brian know so that we can go in and make sure that it looks great. By the way, corrections going forward, once we go live, this will go directly to your board staff. So if you notice that you just went and showed this house and it says it's a 4-bedroom, but it's really a 2, this is where you can anonymously, well, your board staff knows who it is, but it allows you to communicate in a way that the listing agent isn't aware of, but that you can report inaccuracies. That way it helps us police the data to make sure it's proper. All right, so I know I've talked your ear off, but don't worry. You're going to have great resources through this. You have tech support that is available 7 days a week. It is available from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 7 days a week. So as you're going through this transition, if you have any questions, we have people just like myself and Brian. We have a whole tech team that can help you on any of your questions. We support all of our products, so not just Paragon, but Showing Time, the Collab Center, all of the products, Realist, everything you get through us. There are going to be a lot more classes coming up starting in March. We're going to have Collab Center, Home Snap, Realist, all of those classes on the extra pieces. But right now we just want to get you really familiar with getting into Paragon, doing those searches. I am recording this class today, so it's going to be on our YouTube channel. What I'd like you to do, second piece of your homework, 1, check your listings. 2, if you go to YouTube and you type in My Real Source Media, hit the subscribe button, because what I'm going to do is right after this class, I'm going to upload it to our My Real Source Media channel, and you can watch this exact class and you can see it at any time. So if you get lost or you miss something today, or maybe just a month from now, you want to be able to review it now that you're using Paragon 100%. The idea is once you hit that subscribe button, it'll tell you when this class is live, and then you can see up-to-the-minute updates, things that we're doing in Paragon. As Brian mentioned, the Northern Great Lakes just today became available for you guys. So not only do you see 6 other MLSs in your area, but you also have the Northern Great Lakes Realtors that you can go in. You're the first class to know about that, by the way. So go to our YouTube channel, type in My Real Source Media, and subscribe to that channel so you see up-to-the-minute things that you'll have access to going forward through this conversion. Okay, and then on top of that, there's also in MLS documents right up here, there are great cheat sheets that we wrote. I think there's 70 of them we've written now. So you can go right into the education folder, and they will show you all of the cheat sheets which you can save. You can download them, you can print them. So don't be afraid to use those resources too. All right, it's your last chance for any questions. So if you have any questions for Brian or myself, type them in the questions bar. Okay, we'll give you 1 minute to do that, but hopefully you're going to get out there, use Paragon to do your searching, sell, sell, sell. We need some listings, so please feel free to go and list like crazy. We all need some inventory to be able to keep moving forward here. So doesn't look like we have any questions, so thank you so much for attending today. If you do have questions, remember you have support. There's going to be a follow-up email that comes to you in just a minute or two that asks you a couple questions. If you have any questions that you remember down the road, feel free to put them in that question box. Otherwise, I think it's only 4 questions. It just gives us a little feedback on today's class. Okay, thanks everybody. Hope you have a great day. Sell, sell, sell.